Well, hello and welcome to another guest interview here on the Profit with Love podcast. I'm your host, Moshe Amsal, and I'm stoked for the conversation we're having today because anything that has to do with money is my wheelhouse, and I love talking about it. So we're gonna have some fun, but money automatically has people turn their ears off, and they're like, "Oh, no, not another one of these. I hate talking about money." So, if that's you, stick with us because we're not talking about how to manage your money or anything like that. We're going to be talking about something more fun than that. We're going to be talking about pricing your services. And pricing your services is something that everyone does enjoy talking about. Although a lot of you are incredulous about my position on it and don't believe me when I tell you the things that are happening with my clients. But I'm going to share some stories with you today. And our guest is going to add some color and clarity to that. And I think that you're going to leave with maybe a new way of looking at how you're pricing your services. So I'm excited for this conversation. Our guest today is Linda Hunt. Linda Hunt is the founder of SumSolutions and author of The Money Conversation. Often called a money clarity catalyst, she helps service-based entrepreneurs rebuild their pricing systems and client communication, not just strategically, but in a way their nervous system can support without stress or shutdown. So they can build wealth through alignment, structure, and intention. Now, before we talk about this, I'm going to share something with you. I have been talking about, you may have heard it on previous episodes. If this is your first time here. It's the first time you're going to be hearing about it, but we have converted the first 6 to 12 weeks of our coaching program, the Law Firm Growth Elite coaching program, and turned it into a 2-day workshop. Now, what's really cool is exactly what we're talking about today is something that we do in those 2 days. The purpose of that workshop is for you to leave with clarity, not just clarity, but an actual action plan of what you're going to do over the next 12 months to unlock $100,000 months in your business. Now, before you say, I'm already at $100,000 months, if that's you, how about $100,000 a month take home, right? Are you there? Because if you're not there yet, this room is still for you. So somewhere between 100,000 revenue, 100,000 take home, this room is for you. If you want to get to one of those two, you want to be with us for 2 days because in those 2 days, what we're going to do is we're going to change the way you look at your business. We're going to change the way that you think about it. We're going to create the plan that is going to get you there, not in 2 years, 10 years, in 12 months. That's all it takes. If you're going from 20,000 a month to 100,000 a month, you can do it in 12 months. If you're going from $1 million to $5 million to unlock $100,000 months for you personally, you can do that in 12 months. We can help you see how that's possible and help you create the plan and understand the actions you need to take to make that happen. Most people fly by the seat of their pants. You've been doing it the whole time. It's worked for you until now, but has it really? Has it really worked for you? Are you where you want to be? Because most people are on the 20-year journey to get to here. What if you're on the 12-month journey? So join us for 2 days, and we're going to totally change your world. Come to profitwithlaw.com/LFG 2026, profitwithlaw.com/LFG. That stands for Law Firm Growth or Let's F and Go, either one, 2026. and we're going to spend 2 days together, and we're going to change your world. All right, Linda, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Moshe. I'm intrigued by your workshop. I want to attend, and I'm not a lawyer. No, that's fine. Yeah,
you can totally come. Totally come for 2 days. You're invited.
So here's what's so fascinating is we do all have this mentality of I can make a lot of money. No, actually, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. Our mentality is that we make a little amount of money over a long period of time. But you're right. It's like, it's just as easy to make a lot of money over a shorter period of time. And why do we have to think it's hard? It's just one of those mindsets that we all have about money and pricing and all that good stuff. So
yeah, you're speaking my language because I tell people, I mean, this is one of the things that I try to iterate in like our social messaging and stuff like that. Like we tend to overcomplicate business, right? Like we think in order to be successful, we have to be fancy. We think that in order to be successful, we have to work harder. Both of those couldn't be further from the truth.
correct.
The reality is that making money in your business is simple. And if we keep it simple, we can really, we can achieve great things. One of the things we cover in our 2-day workshop is helping people to see how focusing on one target client, one niche, one specific sliver of a practice area is all that you need in order to succeed, in order to get to your $100,000 a month target. And So why do I feel like I need to have six, right? Like, and that's the part of the challenge that we're dealing with. Another piece of the challenge is the pricing part. But before we get into that conversation,
Okay.
we're going to get there.
Yes.
Give us a little bit of background. People want to know, who is
Oh,
Linda?
sure.
What's her story? How in the world is
Yeah.
she? Who made her the authority on talking about this stuff, right? So take me through the short version of your story. But
Okay.
how did you decide to do this? How did you get here?
Yeah.
Give us the backstory.
Okay. So short, very, very short story is I lived everything I teach about pricing. I have lived. I made all the mistakes years and years ago. I'm a corporate dropout. Um, Started my business, started remote accounting services before they were even a thing back in 1998. And basically, I made all the mistakes, Moshe. I charged by the hour. I undercharged. I had problems stating my rate. Like every time I talked about it, my voice would wobble. Gosh, I'm trying to think of some of the, I would over deliver services. You name it, I did it. So that's the short story. Why do I think I'm an expert? Because I lived it, and then I started noticing that the clients that I was working with over the years were struggling with the same things. So in my practice, I've always worked with clients on this type of, helping them with their pricing, helping them monetize, getting, because a lot of times people would come to me with a business, and to me, it was a very expensive hobby. They weren't making the money. They weren't doing what they needed to be doing, focusing, like you said, on that one niche client or that one product, even. They were trying to have 17 different products. So that's the consulting side of my business, but we also offer accounting, bookkeeping, and that's normally how I kind of got into it because people are embarrassed to talk about the pricing. Like we all have to deal with pricing. We all want to, but that's the most Googled, it's one of the most Googled things around. And yet we don't seek out advice to help us with our pricing. We
Okay,
seek out
so
advice for other things.
love your journey, your story. Something that a lot of people could probably relate to. Let's start. I know you have an opinion about hourly pricing, and so do I. Okay. All right.
Okay, let's
But
see.
I think that's the easiest place to start this
Sure.
conversation. Um, because it's the most relatable to our audience, even if
Yes.
they're already beyond hourly pricing.
Yeah.
So here's how a conversation might go. I'll tell somebody an attorney that you hire should be worth $1 million a year to your firm. And if we do simple math, and you're charging 350 an hour for them,
Mhm.
and they're doing 1,400 billable hours a year, which is a lot. That's close
Yeah.
to 6 hours a day,
Yeah.
right? At 6 hours a day, it sounds like not a lot because it's an 8 hour day, but the reality is they're human beings, right? And they probably have to go to the bathroom. They probably have to eat. And they
And
also probably have to be distracted a few times,
yeah.
right? So 6 hours is a lot. Probably that you're going to really get 1,100 productive hours, not 1,400. But let's just use that number. The most that you can get from them for the year is about 425,000. So where's the other 575 coming from? So there's a misalignment between the value of that person to your firm
Yes.
and what you're charging, right?
Yes.
Then, so then I say, okay, where you need to be is at 650 an hour. And they're
Mhm.
like, whoa, 325 to 650. I can't do that. And then the pushback I get is we try to take it away from it being an emotional problem that I hold. And I try to find a logical reason why I can't do it. And I say, well, an attorney is never going to go for it. I'm in litigation. And if I want to try to get the other side to pay for fees, the attorney's not going to say these are reasonable fees. And I say, oh, really? Let me ask you a question. 20 years ago, what was your rate?
350.
Or what was a reasonable rate 20 years ago?
Mhm.
And the answer is usually almost the same that I'm
Yeah.
charging right now. So I
Mhm.
say, okay, what if we apply just the rate of inflation to the last 20 years of that rate? So take 350 at 2.6 or 2.7% annual inflation rate over the last 20 years. Guess what that arrives you at? Somewhere
It's
between 550
yeah,
and
right.
600,
Right.
right? So if you take nothing else out of this conversation except here, Your Honor, I'm just going to take what was reasonable 20 years ago and apply the rate of inflation. We're within a spitting distance of what I'm charging,
Yeah.
right? Now, to close the last bit of the gap, we can do other things like attorneys weren't able to advertise 20 years ago.
Okay.
Now that's the only way to get business. There's a new cost of acquiring business that's 10%, 15%, 20% of the overall revenue.
Hmm.
So I got to mark up my rate by 15, 20% to be able to get clients.
Right.
So that I'm already above the 650 I'm charging.
Right.
So
Right.
we're able to justify the
And
price
you,
increase.
and you haven't even talked about the level of experience. I mean, so that's another factor, right? Because if you've got a great track record, if you're settling cases, you're winning cases, whatever it is you're doing, that adds another component to this and can have you be above 650. But Moshe, what you're talking about, you're speaking my language because you highlighted something super important that I want to go back to is you talked about, there's an 8-hour workday and that a lawyer's probably billable 6 hours a day. You're absolutely right. But we also have to take that down further, right? You have to think about vacation. You have to think about sick time. You have to think about strategic time. You have to think about, I don't know if they're solopreneurs, but time they need to work on their firm. So those billable hours might even be less.
Well, solopreneurs is not what I'm referring to
Okay, that's
because
fine.
there's a Clio Legal Trends report where they done in 2018 where they surveyed 2,000 law firm owners who were solos. And what they found was is that the average solo attorney is billing 2.4 hours per day, collect invoicing 1.9 hours per day, and collecting on 1.6.
Oh my gosh,
Okay.
that's
So,
crazy.
right. So if you're charging 300,000 an hour, $300 an hour, the most that you're able to get from
Yeah.
that, I mean, I'm not going to even do this math in my head. Let's just call it 2 hours a day times 5 days times 47 weeks
Yeah, okay.
to allocate for your time off, right? So
Great.
47 times 5 times 2, that's 470 hours. Now, right away, you can see that that's less than one third of what we were talking about one attorney can do, right?
Right.
Now we do it times 350 an hour. The most you can make is $164,500 a year,
That's
right?
right.
So for solo practitioners, this is an even bigger problem,
It's an
right? Like it's
even bigger.
the difference between charging 650 and 350 is the difference between 165,000 and 305,000, right?
Mhm.
Like that is a massive difference in your life. And then you wonder, like, how come I can't afford to bring on an attorney? Well, because you're charging a 50% discount for your service. Now, I want to throw one more thing out there because I want you to take it from here.
Okay.
There's one more thing which somebody's going to sit there and they're going to say, well, this is all great and good that I could justify it to a judge, right? But the attorney down the block is charging 300 an hour.
Yeah.
So how am I going to charge 600 or 650 an hour? And I
Yeah.
want to answer that because I want to take that off the table for the rest of our conversation. There's another Clio Legal Trends report. And this report surveyed 2,000 firms as if they were trying to be a client. 67%, two-thirds of the firms surveyed either did not answer the phone, did not call them back, or did not return a call after the first conversation. So there's 67% of your competition is not even talking to anybody.
Right.
33% who are answering the phone is the only people that we're having this conversation about. Now, when somebody's shopping for a lawyer, they're either coming in as a referral, they're
Right.
coming in because they found you on Google, right?
Hmm.
Or how else? How else are they finding out about you? Through one of your other marketing efforts, right? So it's either an organic person coming in that doesn't isn't talking to anybody else, or they found you on Google or some other social and you answer the phone. They're not calling like 10% of the potential clients, maybe, are having conversations with three attorneys.
Right. I would
90% of the
agree with
people that
that.
you're talking to are not having a conversation with another attorney. They're having a conversation with you. And whatever you charge, you charge. If it's worth them getting the service that they're asking for, they're going to
Right.
pay for it. And if it's not worth it, they won't pay for it. And and regardless of what your price is, right?
Yeah.
And the 10% that is shopping, if you're the most expensive, some of that 10% is going to choose you because you're the most expensive.
Yes. Agreed. And what you're touching on, Moshe, is the value of the transformation, right? So someone's coming to you, and maybe it depends on the kind of lawyer that you are. I don't know. But if someone's coming to you with a litigation problem and they want to get off, right? They don't want to be convicted, whatever it is. It is about the value of the transformation being delivered. So I actually want lawyers to start thinking about the value of the transformation that their law services are providing, because that is another uniqueness, right? To being able to justify your rate. And most lawyers in your programs, I just want to get some context here. Are they like in certain, are they general law? Are they more specific, or do you have a combination?
Oh, so talking about niching down, we serve all law firms, but we recognize that there would be power in us, serving a specific niche. But consumer facing, so here's the thing: transactional lawyers,
Hmm.
people who you're just doing something for somebody, estate plan,
Right.
criminal defense, where you're one engagement where now criminal defense could be argued as litigation, right? Because
Yeah.
it tends to be more, you can argue for the hourly model, but in certain states, like I have a client in Florida, and in Florida, you're not allowed to charge hourly for criminal defense. You have to charge flat fee, which is very interesting because most
That is interesting.
most states, the bar associations don't like flat fee. Like they try to push you to stick with hourly. Um, but and we didn't even have an alternative billing model conversation, which I think is probably a lot of what you do, which is like, let's package this into something that we can
Yeah.
charge either a flat fee or a subscription, or some sort of value-based price to unlock max value from this client, which is 100% the direction that I think people need to go. But I think more importantly, when we're having these conversations and we're talking about hourly, we're talking about flat fee, we're talking about any of these, or we're talking about elevating the pricing. When I talk to somebody and I say, "Hey, your attorney on your staff who's currently billing at $350,000 a year should be billing at a million." That's the gap. That's why your business is not working. How do
Right.
we get there, right?
Yeah.
So I can show them the logical piece. I
Yes.
can show them the piece where this is how you structure it. This is why somebody will pay for it. But how do you address the
Yeah.
emotional side? One of the
Right.
things that you mentioned to me in the green room before we started is the fact that somebody can state their price, but if they don't believe in it themselves,
Correct.
they're not going to be able to sell it. And I firmly
Right.
believe that.
Yeah.
So what is the work that you do with clients to help them
Yeah.
to overcome that piece of it?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that is the piece, I'm going to relate it back to my own personal story. That's the piece that I had to work on the most, right? Because pricing's not math, pricing's emotional. Pricing is about what we believe it says about us, right?
Hmm.
Um, it's our money story. So I'm just going to give you a little background. It's all the money stories that come into the room, right? It's the way we were raised, right? If you were raised in a house that had a lot of money and you got whatever you wanted, coming in and having this conversation may not be an issue, right? Because it was just always there, so it was a given. But if you came from a middle class family where maybe you were living paycheck to paycheck and you didn't always get what you wanted, and you were told, oh, well, be happy. One of the things I hear a lot from my clients is, um, you get what you get and you don't get upset. And I'm like, oh my gosh, so it's like you believe it or not, you're bringing that into your evaluation of what society says about money, what you subconsciously think about money, and you're also. I think lawyers, more so than any other service providers that I deal with, really do kind of go, well, and you said it yourself, the lawyer down the street is charging X, right? There's a lot of comparison in the legal industry. And I think there's also the perception, it's really fascinating when I'll tell clients of mine, hey, you need to go get a lawyer. You need to go get a business lawyer. They're like, oh, well, they're super expensive. And, I've got to give them a retainer. There's also this perception that it's going to, you have upfront billing, you've got to have a retainer. It's going to be, several $100s for 15 minutes. Like, so you're really, we're dealing with a lot of, what's the word I want to say?
Baggage.
Yeah, a ton of it. So getting back to, so you have a lawyer who's running a firm who has someone working underneath them, right? And they're saying that that lawyer should be worth $1 million. I'm going to tell you where the issue starts right there is not even them thinking about the value of that employee, that lawyer. It is their own, like they don't, maybe they're billing $1 million, but they might not believe that they can do it themselves, right? So
Oh,
it,
they can't do it themselves, right? Like we already established that.
yeah,
The owner of the business is never going to produce at the level that their staff will because their staff has one job
right.
and
So
that's it.
you just named the key thing. There could be this unwritten belief that's saying, hey, if I can't do that, why would I expect my staff person to be able to do that? So they're project.
This is gold because as you're talking, I'm like, wow, okay, so there's some things I'm doing when I'm talking to attorneys and helping them to see this that I'm not addressing, right?
Yes,
Like we need to figure out how to change your own belief or
yes.
belief set or
Mindset. But it's
internal
more than
your
mindset, Moshe. It's more
right.
than mindset. Yes.
No, it's you believing even that you are valuable to this level, right?
Yes.
Like, yes, you're never going to bill at $1 million yourself personally, but
Right.
the rate that you need to be billing at in order to be valued at the
Yep.
same level is this, and
Right.
you're already there, right? Like that, like you need to adopt that and believe that,
Yes.
and then we can translate that into like, I mean, the bottom line is like if you're billing at anywhere from 250,000 to 300,000 yourself, then you should be able to see how that translates to 1 million for an associate on your team
Exactly.
because they should be able to be 3 to 4 times more productive than you.
Yep. The other caveat I want to add here that when you're talking to these the lawyers who what we want to change their mindset, but their job is to craft out with clarity, clean execution for their team. Okay. And what I mean by that is this lawyer, every lawyer you said should be worth $1 million, right? What the owner of the
At
firm,
least.
at least, okay. So the
At
owner,
least like
at least, okay. Great
in
caveat.
pre-litigation personal injury, that attorney should be worth somewhere between 2 and 3.5 million.
Okay.
In estate planning, that attorney can be worth anywhere from 2 to 6 million, right? So like
Okay.
depending on how we structure the business, but
Okay.
every single law firm should have a way for an associate on their team to be worth a minimum of 1 million in revenue. And
Okay.
and here's the flip side of why, right?
Go.
Because if you want to make max profit in your business, which I call 40%, right? If you want to make
Mhm.
a healthy, clean max profit in your business of 40%, the most that you should be paying an attorney to do the work is 20%. So basically you need a 5x their salary.
Okay.
Now, you're not starting them at 200,000, but if they're producing well for your business, you'd want to get them there. You'd want to get them to a
Right.
place where they're not going to want to go somewhere else because they're being offered more, right? They should be valued for what they're bringing to the table. So if the goal is to get them to at least 200,000 in their own pay, then our goal has to be to get them to 1 million in revenue. Like five
Right.
times that is the
Right.
minimum threshold. And then
Right.
from there, we get to be creative.
Yes. From there, you get to be creative because that's the threshold. And the thing you're describing there is the clean execution that I'm talking about, right? It is first, we've got to get the owner's mindset to the place where, yeah, I believe I'm already doing this. Yes, my team person can do this, and you've got to give them a clear path on how to do that. And that could be a variety of things, right? But in order for that owner to get there, they've got to feel the first thing I have people do is actually sink into their body because we're operating from here and you're a CPA, I'm a financials person. It's like we think with our mind, we lead with our mind, but our body knows the truth. And until I understood the mind body connection, I really couldn't hold. I could say, well, my rate needs to be X, but I couldn't hold it.
Yeah, that's what people say. Like I have a pit in my stomach when I'm saying this,
Yes.
right? Like
Okay.
that's the body telling you that you don't believe it.
You don't believe it. And the thing is, and I have some prompts and of course my mind's going blank on some of the prompts, but the thing is, we want to recognize that. We don't want to pretend it does not exist. But if you've got a pit in your stomach, a wobble in your voice, you get, you just you just think it's, you know, if your reaction, if you think it's ridiculous for us analytical people, if you think it's ridiculous, you're kind of disguising strategy, right, as the reason as to why you can't, there'd be no way that you could do that. So you got to like feel into it, feel the discomfort, acknowledge it. And this is going to sound maybe a little woo woo for some folks, but you have to ask it, what, tell me why, pit in my stomach, you're there. Tell me what's, you know, what's upsetting. What is giving you the wrong impression. I'm going to send you some show notes for the show notes after this. I'm going to send you some prompts that your folks can
Mhm.
go through because
Awesome.
it is really about sitting there, asking it, journaling. I think, you know, writing it down, and you'd be surprised as to what comes up. Because the thing is, your body knows the truth, your mind can think it away, right? And you're going to stay stuck exactly where you are. There's going to be no change. You're not going to move that needle. You're not going to get to that second $100,000 that you're promising them in 12 months.
Yeah, I was recently listening to a podcast interview on Simon Sinek's podcast, A Dose of Optimism. He was interviewing Matthew McConaughey, and interestingly, he was talking about how he started journaling when he was 17. And when you look at like self-reflection is a very difficult thing to just start doing and out of the blue,
It is.
right? But so if you haven't been doing it, then you need to have some sort of process or guidance to doing it. And journaling is a great way of just documenting what's coming up for you, right? And putting it
Exactly.
on paper. And when you release it onto paper, it does a few things. It releases it from your body, from your mind. It's not something that needs to stay there because now you wrote it down.
Right.
It also helps give you clarity because now that the words are on paper, you can see them more than you were able to like intellectually, piece it apart in
Right.
your brain. Um, and having somebody prompt the journaling is just a way to start. It's a way to do that.
Yes.
So I love that. So we'll share those prompts with you in the show notes, folks. The show notes are always in the description of the episode in the podcast player or the YouTube channel that you're on. But you can also go to profitwithlaw.com and you can get all of our latest episodes, including the full show notes there as well. Um, so, Linda, um, one of the things that I think would be helpful, and I've always thought about this, I haven't really executed it with any of my clients, but I feel like if I wanted to be able to demonstrate value to a client, right?
Mhm.
Like how powerful would it be if I could show them the risk or the value we're unlocking for
Yes.
them, and then
Yes.
how our fee structure relates to
Mhm.
that, right? So and it's easy for somebody in like a litigation matter, right? Where there's $2 million
Right.
on the line and my whole engagement is going to cost you 50,000. So it's literally only
Yeah.
2.5% of the 2 million.
Yeah.
That's a no brainer. Spend 2.5% to potentially get
Yeah.
that 2 million payoff. Where it becomes more difficult is, say, criminal defense or family law, right?
Mhm.
Where it's not a dollar transaction, right? So what you need to do is you need to sit down and do the homework of like, what is the effect of
Yes.
a guilty verdict versus a not guilty verdict? Like, what is going to change
Right.
in their life if they were found guilty? Is there jail time where they're not productive during that time?
You're
Is
talking about
there
the cost of
right?
staying where they are. That is, you just hit the nail on the head.
Correct.
So any type of law that you're practicing, what is the cost of your client staying where they are? That is
Right.
what they want, because that,
Well, sometimes staying where they are is not an option, right? So, like family law, right?
correct. It's
Okay,
not.
so I'm getting divorced. I have to get divorced. There's no question. I've arrived at this place. This needs to happen. I need
Right.
somebody to represent me,
Yeah.
right? Why? Why do I need somebody to represent me? Well, here's the cost of you not having representation.
Correct.
You
And
could
there's,
potentially not have an equitable timeshare with your kids. You could potentially not have an equitable transfer of assets. You could
yes.
potentially have not lack protection with certain things. Like, what if you do get the time you want with your kid, but there's nothing in there that says that they can't move out of town with them? And now your ex-spouse moves across the country with your kids. Now
Right.
what? Right? So
Right.
like there's all of these things that could happen, right? And
Right.
this is the sales pitch of why you need an attorney. Well, let's just take that sales pitch to the next level and put a dollar amount of the
Exactly.
value to each of these things. And you
And
can't exactly value it, but there's
no.
got to be a value for somebody. Like what would it be worth for you to pay to make sure that this didn't happen?
And just asking that question is enough, but you have to demonstrate. The key here is you have to demonstrate exactly what you just said. Like, okay, so you've got your kid, but there's nothing saying that your ex can't take them, halfway across the country. And now you have to fly to see them. Now you don't see them every other week. It's I would, there's a variety of, depending on the kind of law, again, there's the financial aspect, right? But you want to pull the emotional cords of each of these things. Like in family law, it could be kids, it could be retirement, it could be whatever, how you're going to live when you're retired. It's a variety of things, but it is they've got to talk to the emotional. You've got to pull the emotional strings, the cost of staying where you are. And you're right. And the biggest cost is you don't want to stay where you are. So
Right.
don't let that get in your way.
Right. One of the
That's,
biggest things that can happen is when you're working on getting a client and you tell them what the cost is for working with you or what the investment is or what however you want to phrase it. Um, One of the objections that tends to come up is, oh, I can't afford that. Right.
yeah,
And that's not true, right? Like
not true.
there's nobody in the world that can't afford something that they really need or want, right?
Yes,
Like they
absolutely.
find a way to purchase it if they see the value. So when they
Correct.
say I can't afford that, all that means is you failed to relay the value of this to me in a way that I feel like I need to move everything
Correct.
else aside, move heaven and earth to come up with the funds for this.
So
So
when someone says that, what I say is tell me more. You want to get them into a dialogue. Tell me, because most people think when they say, I can't afford that, conversation's done, and you're not going to challenge me anymore into having this conversation and having me look at it. But you're absolutely, but it's an emotional hiding spot. So ask an open-ended question. Tell me more why you can't afford this. And then once they say something, you can reflect that back to them and relate it back to the cost of staying where they are. So,
yes, I
so
love
it's
that.
it's clarifying, right? Like when
Yes.
we don't sell someone as a service provider in general, we haven't clarified the transformation, and that's on us.
Yes. Yes. Not just the transformation, but the value of the transformation.
Yes, value.
Right.
Yes,
Right.
absolutely. Yes.
So, and this is where like it's very easy for us to exit or push off. And this is the thing where like because I work with clients and I help them to see that like the sales team, I'm working with a client where the sales team is performing at 12% conversion rate. Right. And okay, whatever that means, I am telling him that means they're not performing at the level that they should be at, right?
Right.
Like, and I tell them minimum acceptables should be 25%, and they should be able to get to 50%.
Okay.
So that's the range of where they should be. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of opportunity, right? But what is the reason that they're not getting there?
I'm
And
going to
I
tell you,
think,
may I tell you what I think?
yeah, go ahead.
What I think it is because we are not as small business owners, right? We are not experts in every area of our business, and this particular person may not be an expert in sales, so they are not clear on how to cleanly execute on how that function should cleanly execute, so they feel uninformed and they don't have the high expectations that they should be having. So again, we've got to get back to that clean execution. They've got to be able to architect the process so that everybody knows this is how that position is successful.
Right. So maybe that's a piece of it. In this case, it's a 30-person sales team.
Okay.
It's not a small client, it's a big
Okay.
client. But the reality is that and I didn't listen to their calls. I didn't, I haven't listened to anything, but I know from the fact that
Right.
they're closing at that level, I know that one thing has to be happening in that sales conversation, which is they're allowing the objection to drive the decision. They're
Yeah.
allowing so when the
Right.
salesperson's on the call and somebody says I can't afford that, they're taking that at face value
Right.
and they're perhaps trying to push them or they're saying, okay, you know what? Let me follow up with you in 2 weeks and let's revisit this. right? So we're making more work for ourselves. We're delaying what needs to be said, and the reality is that really what we need to do is we need to overcome the objection. And the only way to overcome any objection, so every objection is either going to be money or time, right? In some way, shape, or form, that's what it's going to boil down to. And what that means is I'm not willing to invest my resource, my limited resource, into this solution simply because I don't understand why I should.
There's a third one. They're not ready, right, to be they're not ready for that kind of clarity. That's another one. So that's another objective because I will tell you, um, oftentimes when on the accounting services side, when we're going in, I'd say to people, I need to look at how your systems are architected, how they're talking to each other. And when especially, and I do that, especially when I sense that there's a lot of chaos and role confusion and not clarity, I get turned down when they're not ready for that level of clarity. They're not even saying to me, we can't afford that, whatever it is. They're turning around and saying to me, yeah, we need to think this through. And there are times I know when to go in further and have the conversation. And there are times because I can tell they're ready, or there are times I'm like, you know what, this would be a misaligned client. So, but I agree with you, but it's a level of clarity. It's a level of clarity
Yeah.
that the client is ready to have.
Yeah, really good point. That third thing of them arriving at the right place in their mind to be
Yes,
able to make that decision, which could, I mean, there's other emotional baggage that could be there, right? Like you deserve
absolutely.
this, right?
Absolutely.
You should be willing to invest in yourself in this way. Some people like they don't go to the gym not because they don't have the time or not because they can't afford it, but because they don't think they're worth it, right? Like this is not where I should be spending my time or my
Right.
money.
Right.
But and that's a level of value and worth
Yes.
that needs to be elevated.
Yes.
This is a great conversation. We could go on forever. We're already way over our time. So,
Oh,
Linda,
okay.
it was it was really good exploring this, and I think that there's a lot of takeaways from here. So, folks, one of the things that I always encourage you to do is you listen to a podcast episode is take something from it and implement some sort of change. So, that's what. That's what I would like to encourage you to do today is just kind of think back to what you heard and just say, okay, this is one thing I'm going to put into practice right now. Whether it's increase your rates, whether it's think of some um, think of some way of positioning your service differently so that you're not charging by the hour and instead you're charging for the engagement where you can show the value, total value of the engagement. You can show them why that investment is worth it for them. Now we have we have like a pricing playbook that we released a couple of years ago. I don't
Okay.
remember the URL for it, and I don't remember even if my team has like a separate landing page for it. But I'm gonna basically ask them here live on the show, folks, if you can put this in the show notes page. We're gonna hopefully link to that so you can download it, and we'll walk you through how to figure out what these alternative billing models might look like for you if you explore something beyond hourly billing. Um, but so whether it's changing the pricing, increasing your pricing, understanding the value of the worth that you bring, or it's changing the way that you look at your overall business as a whole, or changing your sales tactics or the way that you approach that, there's so much there in unpacking and unlocking the value that you bring to the marketplace. And we do a really poor job of that. Like so many business owners are walking around and there's $20 bills, $100 bills on the floor all around them. And all you got to do is bend down and pick it up, but we make it harder for ourselves, right? Like we're like, that's not worth the effort. But it is, and going through this and doing it is very important. Which I mean, we talked about the 2 day workshop at the beginning of the episode. Come join me in the room for 2 days. Like let's navigate this. Let's help you overcome that. Let's do the work so that you could change. I mean, how much different would your world be if you were able to make twice as much from the same work you're doing already,
Right.
right?
Right.
So that's what I have to share here in summary and recap. I'm going to give Linda the microphone. Linda, what's one parting piece of wisdom that you want to share with our audience that maybe is reiterating or maybe is covering something we didn't cover? And then where do you want to send them to,
Yeah.
explore your services, maybe think about working with you or getting some more value from you and something you've already created?
Sure. I think I'm going to go back to what I said at the beginning of the podcast, where it's like you can decide to make a little bit of money over a long period of time, or you can decide to make a lot of money over a shorter period of time. It's it's a heck of a lot easier. So and I think that our conversation can give a lot of people things to think about with that. If anyone is interested in learning more, I have my book coming out, The Money Conversation. It'll be available on Amazon and my website.
What's
You
the
also,
release date?
excuse me,
What's the release date of your book?
March 2026. So
Okay.
it's coming up soon, actually next month. Wow, it's February already. And then the other thing is, if you're having some, if you want to explore a little bit more about this nervous system stuff, come talk to me. Book a clarity consult. You can do that over at my website, SumSolutions.com, SumSolutions.com. And you can check out the other resources that we have there on pricing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome, folks. We're going to link all that up in the show notes again, profitwithlaw.com, or the description of your podcast player, or on the YouTube channel where you're watching this interview. We're here every single Thursday with another great conversation. So make sure to stay tuned, hit the subscribe button in your podcast player on the YouTube channel so that you get notified when we release a new episode. And we bring a ton of value in these conversations. And I think that this is the room you need to be in every single week. It's not a lot of time that you're dedicating to be here, but there is so much value that we provide in these interviews and these conversations. So you want to definitely stay tuned and be here for that. And if you want to come and join me for 2 days, go to profitwithlaw.com/LFG 2026. We'll see you there. Folks, we'll be here next Thursday. Take care. Bye for now.